Hello, everyone. Today we're going to go over how to review the closing disclosure, the CD, for whenever you have a closing. So let me share my screen here. That way everyone can see what I'm looking at. Okay, and let me make my screen bigger so everyone can see better. There we go. All right, so we call it the CD because obviously closing disclosure. So if you ever hear that, this is what it's referring to. Basically, it has all the expenses to everything that went into the loan, went into the house. You'll see invoices for a bunch of different stuff, and I'm going to try and break it all down. The closing attorney always breaks this down as well. Not just that, the loan officer will usually break this down to the buyer, and the attorney always asks, hey, did your loan officer review this? Do you want to review this? Because technically they should have already, but we can still go over it. So I'm going to point out stuff that I usually look for, and then point out stuff that just there's everyday stuff in here. So here's the CD. This actually has to be out 3 days before closing. So in that case, 3 days before closing, and that's a lender rule too. So it's going to be there. You have to ask the attorney for it. Not all of them send it to you, but you want to review it because the most important thing is you want to look for your commission. You want to make sure that is correct. So we're going to go down, and it's usually a couple pages down, and this is exactly what we're going to look for. So we're going to, here it is. So we see real estate commission. So we see it's to Atlantic Sotheby's and real estate commission to Austin James Real Estate. Both are getting 5,400. So we just want to check the sales price. It's not 160. Yeah.
It's 180.
180. Yep, there it is. So at 180, and I'll do the math on the calculator here. Times 0.03, and that is 5,400. So yeah, that's good. Now we also want to check to see if our admin fee is on here too. That's another important part. Yep. So I see admin fee to Austin James Real Estate, $495. Boom. That is perfect. That looks good to me. When I'm at a closing, this is the first things I'm looking for. I'm like, okay, is my commission here? My admin fee? Great. But then there's other stuff that go into a CD as well. So sometimes there's invoices that are on there. Sometimes there's home warranties. So we just want to double check that it's all there, and especially the home warranty too, and the invoices. So you want to make sure all that's set before you get to the closing table, because you don't want the numbers to change at the closing table. It's not fun. You guys got to wait longer, and then it's got to get approved. I mean, I've waited an hour at the closing table before, so I like getting this days before. So stuff that we're going to look for, we see it's a 30-year loan. It's fixed rate. It's a VA loan. The loan amount is 160, even though the sales price is 180. They're putting down 20,000. We see here the interest rate is 3.375. That's a pretty good loan. It says the monthly principal and interest is only $707. It's amazing to buy a house, but that's not the final price here. Now we're also going to look here at the estimated escrow, which is $198, meaning that the monthly payment is going to be $905.71. So this is what your client needs to look at. It's also showing estimated taxes, assurance, and assessments, which is $198. That's really just for your client to know. Not all the time the property tax is built within the loan. So for instance, my own personal house, my taxes are not built within. So that's something that your client must know, because mine, I just got a $3,000 bill saying, hey, you owe this property tax. I'm like, oh, snap, that's right. It's not in my mortgage payment. But most people are. So just double check that. So something to look here as well is we see here there's no mortgage insurance. A lot of the times there is, but I believe they put down quite a bit of money. Or in some cases that it's not needed. Usually when there's at least 20% down, the mortgage insurance is not needed. But with FHA, I believe it's always needed. Conventional, it's at 20%. And VA, I honestly don't remember, but obviously here it shows it's 0. But that's just a lender question. Really, that doesn't affect you. It affects the buyer. We can see here the closing costs total up to $5,100. So what's interesting to see is normally we'll ask for 3% of closing costs on the settlement, and here 3% would be $5,400, but the closing costs only went up to $5,100. So that's pretty cool. Well, cool for the seller, not great for the buyer. We can see the cash to close is $19,961. Here we could see other stuff. This would be if they bought down any points to buy down their interest rate. They didn't. Here we can see how much the appraisal costs, $525. That's usually what I tell my people to expect. I'm like, hey, look, somewhere around $550. If it's below that, great. Sometimes it's higher. Credit report, $42. Flood certification, which was $20. Now we see all the title fees, which was about $1,200. And then we can see the total cost for these fees that the borrower did not shop for, because usually the lender will do it, is about $1,800. And again, this goes towards our closing costs. Then we see there's recording fees, city fees, state fees, transfer taxes, all those, another $1,200. We can see there's prepaids. So homeowners insurance premium is prepaid, which is great. That's a year of the homeowners insurance that is paid for. Note, you do have to pay that after. So do keep that in mind. We can see there's prepaid interest, which totals $1,130. The initial escrow payment at closing, this is to set up for the remainder of the year for the 3 months for the homeowner's insurance, for the mortgage, the property taxes. We can see there's other random fees like our admin fee, the 210 home warranty fee, $569. That's good to know as well. The pest inspection fee by Diamond Exterminating, the real estate commissions, the realtor admin fee. And then these are important as well. These are repairs that needed to get done. So repairs can be added as invoices onto the CD. So you always want to check this before closing. Like for instance, my dad does a lot of paint jobs for our clients. And a lot of the times he'll say, okay, I'll just put my invoice on the CD, and I want to make sure his invoice is on the CD, so he is going to get a check at closing. So I do want to make sure all my contractors do get paid. And then we can see the total closing cost for this came to that. And then between all of that came out to about $5,100. We can see here there's 0 lender credits because they don't need it in this instance. And then we'll see some other stuff saying the loan estimate was estimating closing costs to be $6,200, but ultimately it went down to $5,100. So that's great. Most loan officers estimate high, so it doesn't seem as bad at closing. We can see the down payment needed from borrower was 20 grand. We can see their EMD was $500, the deposit. Funds for borrower 0. Seller credits was 5,400, but really the seller only credited 4,900. So this is something that I always look for when we're talking about the settlement expenses on the standard purchase agreement. The paragraph on there, and actually I'll just bring up an example so you can actually see what I'm talking about. It depends on how the verbiage is laid out for how that money is calculated. So let me bring up this one, which is a ratified contract that I just wrote for my sister and let me make this bigger. Okay. So this is the paragraph that I'm referring to, settlement expenses. This right here is where we figure out the closing costs and how much we're getting. Here, note, I say seller to pay 3% of the final sales price, meaning no matter what, if it was 180, that would mean seller is going to pay $5,400 no matter what. But if it says seller to pay up to 3%, if the lender said, okay, closing cost is only going to be $5,100, not the $5,400, then the sellers only have to pay up to $5,100. So technically, we kind of lost $300 there. You know, we could have probably taken that extra $300 and put it towards extra coverage on your refrigerator, extra coverage on your AC for a home warranty. So that verbiage, and it's just tiny, tiny verbiage. Like it's literally 2 words: seller to pay up to 3% or seller to pay 3%. So if I'm on the buy side, I always want to make it sure to where it says seller to pay blank. If I'm on the list side, you know, I'm changing that verbiage saying seller to pay up to. That's all I do, add in those 2 words. And it can be a difference between a couple $100 or a couple $1,000. You never really know. So that is a super important one there. And then here I put to pay up to $590 on the home warranty. We saw that it was only $569. So there was $21 left over. there's actually something on the home warranty that is $20. So we could have added that in there as well. There's extra coverages there's like 30 extra coverages that you can add on. There should be some around $20. But you can use all of it, or even if it was $30, the buyer can bring the difference of $10. So that's stuff you want to look for, but seller to pay blank. So that's just how the verbiage is played out on here. Again, a lot of this stuff just repeats. Now we can see the sales price was 180. The closing cost is this. City tax is that. Really, all the numbers are just broken down again to where it says, okay, how much does the borrower need to bring, which is the 19,000, and then over here we can see how much money the seller is making from all this. So left side is the borrower, right side is the seller. Here we can see the seller is actually making $160,000 on this property. So that's actually pretty good. So it's nice that you can actually see how much the seller is making just by looking at the CD as well. This stuff over here just talks about if you can make it assumable. So it says this loan is assumable, which is great because you get a 3.375 interest rate. Just say one day interest rates go to 7%. You can actually have your loan assumed at the 3.3, meaning you can sell your property more because they're going to assume that lower interest rate compared to the 6% they would get. So that's important for down the road, not today, but down the road. We can see how much in escrow is going to be put aside. Note, this is not for like saying you have to bring $2,300 to the table. If we go back to the very, very top, it's saying here there's going to be $198 set aside every month out of your mortgage payment, just for random stuff. The attorney usually goes over that, but it's already set aside. It's already broken down for you, so you don't have to worry about that. We can see how much the initial escrow payment is, how much it is, that 198. Negative amortization. I don't even know how to say that word. It doesn't matter. It's basically saying that is this a different kind of balloon payment or a different kind of loan? It's not. It's a fixed rate, so it's going to stay the exact same. There are different loans out there where it changes. There's loans out there where you can just pay the interest up front for like 5 years and then later on change it. What I've seen is the fixed rate is probably the best for everyone. A balloon payment is probably the worst thing you could do. So try and go for that fixed rate. And this is just other stuff that really don't mean much. We'll see something over here that most people would look at. Oh my gosh. So people would see the APR and the TIP over here. Note the APR is not the interest rate. Usually this is a lot higher as well. We're at a 3.375. This is 3.395. Basically, this is just saying your cost over the loan term expressed as a rate. And it literally says there, this is not your interest rate. It's just saying with all the fees wrapped in, this is what you're basically paying. And then the TIP over here, this is how much of the house you're going to be paying extra if you pay the full 30 years. So really, if you took the sale price of the house and then figured out 59% of it, that's how much interest you're going to pay on it. So even though you bought it for 180, when you're done after 30 years, you're going to pay 256,000. It doesn't mean your payment is going to change. Now, you could add extra payments every month, and that'll reduce how much interest you're going to put in, meaning this number would go down. Something that I've learned is if you put just $100 a month extra into the principal, you'll take about 3 years of life of the loan off, meaning you'll pay less interest. So the sooner you pay it, less interest you pay. Down here, we see who the people were. So we see this is CNF Mortgage. We can see it's Austin James Real Estate, who the listing broker was, who the buying side is, and then we can see everyone's information here. And then you see the closing attorney, and I believe that is, oh, okay. And then this right here is the Alta. This basically just goes over everything again that we just said. This goes over the seller and the borrower. It's literally the same exact thing that we just saw, just in a little different format. Sometimes you'll see this, sometimes you'll see the CD. Really, it's the same exact stuff. It makes zero difference. Again, we can just see here more clear. $5,400 to Austin James. And and then we can actually see how much their payoff was as well. The repair bills, but again, it's all just repeat info. So this is the CD. This is honestly the most important piece of paperwork that you can have in real estate. Um, Again, first thing, just check your commission, make sure it's correct. Can't tell you how many times I've seen it not correct. So you would be shocked on that. So always get it the 3 days before you close. That way you can review everything and make sure that everyone's getting paid, you're getting your stuff, and home warranties on there, whatever it may be, that everything is there, because you do not want to do this on closing day. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened. So always ask for this 3 days in advance. And if you ever need help with it, first person to go to would be your loan officer. They would know because they're basically putting this together. Second, go to your not closing attorney, the paralegal, whoever it is. Go to them, be like, hey, look, this invoice is supposed to be on here. Why is it not there? And then third, go to your realtor or your broker and ask them more about it. But that's everything I can share on this. So if you guys got any questions, I'll be happy to help. Everyone, take care.